So yeah, it was yesterday was for me it was scary because when you see yourself on screen doing something that kind of affects a lot of people who've been through something like that or around people who've been through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It really took me back to that day when we shot it.
Okay.
You forget about it, man. You forget about it. You try to get out of that zone, and then when you see it, you're like, you forget what you even shot. And then watching that it really, man, that thing was depressing to just to watch. As a fan,
Mm-hmm.
as an artist, I'm like, oh, I should have smiled more there. I should have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you start to take it apart. But no, it was. How did you feel about it, man?
It was heavy, man, because I go back to the conversation you had with JD, Easy, uh,
Yeah,
about the reasons you wanted to be in the club,
yeah,
and the reasons why you were going through what you were going through. You wanted to be part of that group, and anyone who kind of grew up a little nerdy, I know I did, super nerdy, always wants to feel included in with the cool kids.
yeah.
But sometimes I think because we're so enamored with the idea of being included, we don't really take into account the dangers and the risks that sometimes come with that.
You're right. Not everything that glitters is gold, my friend.
Right. And I thought you did beautifully
Thank
at
you.
giving us an outsider's perspective from the as close as you can get to the inside without being in.
Yeah, that's exactly my life. Growing up where I grew up, you know, you want to always be an observer of your surroundings. And as a comedian, because that's what I am, man. I'm a comedian. I've been a comedian for 15 years. I've been stand up, toured all over the country. Being a comedian, you have to see the the humility and the honesty and the funny behind the tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably the hardest part in the situation. And even on the show, I had to really detach myself from me being a comedian. I had to sit, in the car before I got off set. I mean, on set and say, "Don't say anything stupid. Don't make fun of me," because the guys are hilarious. By the way, all the guys,
Mm-hmm.
there's oh my, nothing but just talking about funny stuff here and there, making jokes, bagging on each other, wrestling. I mean, it's like it's a fraternity, man. It's a party all the time when we're working together. And me being a professional shit talker, as I am, it was hard to just stay quiet and be Steve. But because I knew that if I gave him some of Momo, I would just stay in that space.
Oh.
Once it was turned on, that's it. I would be turned on the whole. That sounds very erotic. I'd be turned on the whole time. I would have been turned on the whole time we're filming, which was 6 months. So I wanted to make sure they knew that when they saw me, I was Steve. In fact, on my first day, I actually stood by Frankie Loya's bike. Him playing Hank being my sponsor
Mm-hmm.
on the show. I stood by his bike because he always rode in to work,
Oh, okay.
and I just stand there. I stood there while he was in his trailer. I stood by the bike during lunch watching his bike. And they would come out, "What are you doing? What's this guy doing?" And I was just like, "Hey, man, I'm watching Hank's bike. Just let me get into that zone." And one thing about the guys, they let you do whatever you had to do to get into where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was the beautiful part about it. Everybody was an artist. Everybody was just honoring each other's process. And man, but I really want to open this up and ask you, what are the things that you would want to know from Steve? Because I want to make sure that this interview here is focused on the things haven't been said yet.
Of course, absolutely. So specifically, third season we saw that Elgin James took over as a showrunner, and with some of the cast members that I've talked with, nothing but amazing and positive things about the culture on set and the opportunities that they were given. And now I read that Steve was specifically made for you by him for this season. How was that for you? And when you first looked at the character?
You know, Steve is based on somebody's special intelligence, and it was he. I think he said when he was creating it, he said, you know, we need like a Momo Rodriguez type. The problem was they weren't sure if Momo Rodriguez was an actor. You know, they saw me as a comedian, and they saw I made a sketch video. I made a video 3 years ago of it was called Bad Mayans Auditions, and it was just me doing a self tape, mad about the guys that they have on the show, how they're too good looking, they're not real enough, and it's just me talking so much smack. And Elgin liked the video. He sent me a message, and that's all I've heard from him for like 3 years. And then one day I get a call from my manager that she submitted me to read a part that sounds like something I can probably play. Did the tape, and got a call back right away. And it was the first time I actually talked and had a real conversation with Elgin. And he was really cool about it. He said, let me see it again. Let me hear the audition. Let me hear the dialogue. Did it, and he goes, okay. And that's all he said. It was all like, okay. All right, thanks, Momo. And then that's it. They hung up the Zoom, and I was like, okay, what's gonna happen? And then you get another phone call. Hey, Elgin wants to see you again on Zoom with the director and then with another producer and some of the network. Cool. They do it again. You do your lines again, and then the whole time we're like, okay, is this it, or what's gonna happen, bro? Come on, dog. I'm over here. I'm having anxiety attacks. And he's like, okay, all right, bye. And that's it. So I'm like waiting and waiting. Then I got that phone call from my manager that they offered me the part, and now it's like, okay, cool. Now what do I do? I don't know anything about him. I want to know. And just when I was thinking that, JD calls me, Richard Cabral calls me, Frankie Loya calls me, Emilio Rivera calls me. Man, when they make you a Mayan, they make you a Mayan. It's like a family, like a whole family just joins and creates in front of you. It's beautiful. And then when you first go on set and you see Elgin James, you're like, man, you get nervous around the guy in charge of everything. Mm-hmm. But with Elgin, it's like welcomes you with a hug, asks you how you're doing, wants to hear your ideas, wants to hear how you would interpret something. I mean, dude, it was so much fun to create with somebody who understands the culture and the lifestyle. I mean, mm-hmm. And that's one thing that was different about. I feel this because I'm a fan of the show. So me being on this year, I saw the difference. The difference was it was more about the humanity. I mean, it was right. A long poem. What it was about our struggles, our inner feelings, our inner behind the cut, man. It was about behind the cut.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's why also I'm a huge fan of the show, because I did watch Sons of Anarchy. And one thing that always bothered me about it, and it still bothers me about Hollywood in general.
Was it Opie, bro? It was Opie, right?
Yeah. What bothered me was the Mayans were always the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do the Hispanics always got to be the Latinos? Why do we always have to be the bad guys? And then when I heard that they were going to be doing the spinoff with Mayans, I thought what a great opportunity to flip the coin and to see the other side of this brotherhood.
Exactly.
And then you just have powerhouse names that have been just killing it for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And now with Elgin James as a showrunner, 3rd season has just been fantastic. And it's covered so many topics.
Yeah.
From family issues, drug use, to your character and the inclusion of wanting to be part of that lifestyle without necessarily knowing what it's about. And which is why I'm so passionate about covering it, talking to you guys. It's such a pleasure for me to do that. Because it's Latinos in front of the camera doing what they do best.
And behind the camera and on the writing. Right. I mean, Deborah Munoz, man, an amazing producer, an amazing writer of some of the episodes. I mean, she was there guiding us. She represented us in a beautiful way. I mean, a lot of people would tell me this show, well, like you said earlier, why they make the Latinos the bad guys? Well, that's the thing about this show. It's like somebody asked me, what is it like being on a show that doesn't portray Latinos in a positive way? I'm like, well, that's not what the show's about.
No.
And here's an example of that. One of my favorite movies of all time was Saving Private Ryan.
Mhm.
I mean, throughout the movie, these brothers, these bands of brothers are killing a lot of people because of a cause that they are from, because of a belief that they're
Right.
following. But this movie is not about who they kill. The movie is about brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
This show is about brotherhood. It's about humanity. If you agree or do not agree on what they're doing, it's about the humanity behind all that stuff. It's about the struggle of you know, being what you were born into. I mean, I'm born in a hood, and that's why I relate so much to Steve sometimes, because that could have been me if I didn't have my parents on my ass the whole time. Steve was looking for brotherhood. Steve was looking for something he was missing.
Right.
He wanted a place to belong to. He wanted people to belong to, and I thank God that I was given that as a kid, or if not, I would have been Steve. I grew up in the atmosphere that Steve grew up in. Um, that's why it was important for me to show that, and to show people that this is not just a TV show. This is a portrayal of a real lifestyle out there.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, they just can't go and take lives. It'll really mess them up. It will really, in this case, cause them to take their own if they have to take another one. And Steve, that was Steve's thing. Steve was like, "Oh man, I don't want to be Bishop.
Right.
I don't want to be Taza. I don't want to be Hank. I don't want to. I thought I did, but the way they're, and even his last scene where Bishop is telling the story about how he killed somebody with no remorse, and everyone's just laughing and enjoying it. And Steve says, "This patch, is this who I'm going to be now? I'm going to just look how funny it is to them to talk about the story that about them taking a life when a few hours earlier I was pretty much pouring my heart out to Easy about how I can't stop seeing this guy, and these guys are celebrating it. What's going to happen tomorrow?" And I don't think Steve wanted to find out what happens tomorrow, and he had to make his exit. Not in a way that people should, but Steve didn't think he had any other choice. And I hope people watching this can understand that you always have a choice.
Right.
There is life
Absolutely.
outside of the club. Steve didn't realize, because look, Steve was the only one that was really down for the club when you think about it.
Some of the things
His
he did, yeah.
his heart was so into it. Everybody has motives, has drama around him. Steve's only drama was the club. He loved it so much. There was nothing trying to get to him.
Right.
All he wanted was to belong. And then when he got that, he realized that being part of the club made him farther away from himself.
Absolutely. And I think we see that in the progression when they were trying to bring over the drugs from Mexico, and he's part of that heist. He's the
Oh yeah.
watchman, and he finally quote unquote does something right. He's still cool. He's still great. And then the beatdown happens, and they get jumped, and he pulls a gun and does what he does. Yeah, that was his line. That's it right there.
That's
And
the first time he saw it though. Remember,
right.
Steve
Mm-hmm.
didn't see when they went to go get Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
He
True.
thought he probably was still probably waiting for her for a long time, see if she would come back up. He wasn't there for the going over the border. He was a lookout.
Right.
He wasn't there for the stuff, the bad stuff. The Rumble was the first time he had to take it into his own hands. And I mean, it's so poetic, man. I swear to you, it's so poetic. It's poetry. It's Shakespeare. These stories, they're so beautifully written. The passion behind the actors, the writing, the cinematography. What about the cinematography this year, man? It's like 10 little movies.
Right. Yeah, it's fantastic. And that last scene where you're just looking around, and we've just
Oh,
talked about it a little bit. Just the emotion or the non-emotion that you're feeling, and realizing that what you're having the hardest part in like Easy said, just locking it down is something that the rest of the club is just celebrating. It's every day. It's no different than changing a shirt or
Yeah.
anything of that nature. It's incredible. It's incredible how much you can put in a character like Steve, and without him being featured that much. And that's a testament to the writing and to you as well, of
Thank you
course.
so much, man. It was amazing writing. I mean, amazing writing, amazing trust by Elgin and Debbie. Uh, if they didn't trust me with it, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, man, we bring up that day, the day we shot that last scene. A lot was going through my mind. That person, Steve, is based on somebody. One of the writers. It's based on one of their friends. So right before I shot that scene, I actually went up to this writer and I told them, "Hey, do you want to say something to Steve before you lose him again?"
Wow.
And when I did that, I was listening to this person tell me things that I never want to repeat to anybody, but that made me think about the loss, the frustration in this person having to go through all this. When it comes to the suicide, they know, it affects more the people you leave behind than you
Right.
think. You stop hurting, but you hurt people even more on your exit. And I wanted to really feel that frustration without going too deep into it, though, because I was going through a tough time during we shot that. My mom passed away in this January of COVID.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
so I lost her that like 2 weeks before we shot that. So I was already like my emotions were everywhere, and I wanted to really like focus on Steve. So what I did was Steve was kind of like the guy I leaned on through
Interesting.
my mother's passing. I lost my mom, but then I kind of gained Steve to go through the mourning with Steve. And then that day I had to lose Steve. And for me, it was like another loss all over again. So the emotions, the I guess the facial expressions, the tears, those were real that day. And the cast, crew, everyone made me feel those tears and not enjoy them, but kind of like use them for the scene that I had to do. They stood by my side. They were in that table. Everyone played their part beautifully, and it just made me shine. Um, it's crazy how beautiful tragedy can be,
Yes.
And if I've learned anything from this experience, it's that we all have a choice. We all have a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we're gonna see that coming up in the next season. The purpose that was Steve, the person that the things that Steve left behind, and the effects of losing Steve can do to people. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and no, I was just blessed to have work with everybody on on the whole cast. I mean, they're a bunch of amazing people, man. We're family. As a stand up, it's a different type of brotherhood we go through. We're competition with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We clown around with each other. But with these actors, man, I found love that I never thought I would ever find. I know that sounds all gush, this guy, but it's true, man. These guys are amazing, and I'm sure you guys all know them. I mean, that's why that show is so successful, and Steve is really, really gonna be missing them from beyond because I have my
Yeah.
cut now. By the way, bro, I walked out with it
Did
after.
you?
Yeah, man, dude, I went gangster on them. I just I was like, I was still in that outlaw mode.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and I was like, I'm gonna just walk out with this cut on. Everyone said bye to me. We gave each other hugs. It was great. They all applauded for me. It was a beautiful ending when they wrapped me. And they all went to their traders to change. I went straight to my car, got in there, full makeup, full costume. And then I was running out of gas. I had to go pump gas at the corner at a 7-Eleven wearing my mind's cut, looking all like if anybody would have saw me, that would have been crazy.
Oh man, that's crazy.
I'm wearing
That
this
is.
today to the supermarket.
Oh, nice. The only thing I have a promo from a couple years back.
Oh, there you
They
go.
gave me.
Hey man,
So
let me tell you, when you put this on, you can do anything. You feel so unstoppable until,
You
until a real club passes by. You're like, oh yes,
better take this off a little. Yeah.
what
I don't
happened?
want to take too much more of your time. I probably have a couple more interviews lined up, but I got to ask you, what was that moment like when they said cut on that scene?
Man, when they said, you know what? Funny story. I bruised my rib
Oh,
on that scene because I fell straight down. And the first few takes, when I would fall, I would hold on to the table.
oh,
And the stunt coordinator was like, "Bro, you're dead. It's like you can't grab onto stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll do the next one." And the last take, I did. I went straight down to the floor, and I think I landed wrong on the mat. And
oh,
like after that, man, that was my that helped me detach from the emotion
oh, okay.
because there was extras we haven't had extras in a long time. I mean, throughout the show because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the first scenes that I was in that had background people in it. So we have a party going on. We have all these people in the room, plus you have the cast group, and they don't know what's gonna happen. And then next thing you know, I'm over there and I commit suicide and fall straight down. Everyone's like, and just you can hear a pin drop, and then even and when you do a scene and the camera's on you, the actors behind the camera don't have to be there. They can just go do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody just stayed in their spot. I think Elgin James said that for the first time in Mayans filming history, the whole cast and crew was quiet
Wow.
because it was. I mean, man, I do when I say we're family, we're family. We all got so close that they were seeing one of their friends go.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that from them. I mean, if I could, I wish I had the words to describe the hug that Michael Irby gave me, or the hug that JD Pardo gave me, and he whispered in my ear and told me, "You're always going to be a Mayan." Told me, I mean, so think about it, man. I'm all emotional. I'm
Yeah.
over crying, stealing material. I mean, I'm just like, I was a mess. I was such a mess. And that's when I knew it was going to be gold on screen. And I just saw it yesterday, and you know, uh, it I had to just have a little moment of myself, and
Mm-hmm.
I got emotional, had a little cry. The thing is, on yesterday was exactly 4 months from when my mom passed,
Okay.
and the week before that, the episode 7, or 2 weeks before that, episode 7, the week where Steve kind of really comes out on camera was my
Mm-hmm.
mom's birthday. So like all these messages, her saying, I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you finally see the final product, you're just like, all right, well, this is what I got in this for,
Yeah.
to show that, the Latinos, we have talent.
Absolutely.
We have what it takes. And shout out to all the gorditos out there, all the gorditos, all the voluptuous men. Si se puede, si se pudo. Hey, you know what, man? Let me tell you, it's one thing I have so many DMs right now from my fellow gorditos saying how I represented them, and I'm proud to represent them. Representation matters.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
always important because the truth is, man, everybody wants Easy, everybody wants Angel, but they all go home to a Steve.
Oh, that's a quote if I ever heard one.
That's a quote right there. Yeah.
Not wrong. I just want to ask you one more question, man, because the thing is, as I'm watching you, Steve, and I'm looking at some of your headshots and maybe some of the comedy that you've done before, I'm like looking back and making sure that's the same guy.
Oh, I'm a
So
chameleon.
what was that like for you to see that in the mirror for the first time? The slick back hair, the prospect vest, clean shaved.
Oh, scary. You know what? I look like I did 10 years ago, trying to be part of something greater than I was.
Interesting.
And I've always been prospecting for my industry. I've been blessed to be the producer to George Lopez's first Netflix special. I was on the road with the Kings of Comedy. I mean, I've gotten to prospect for every amazing entertainer in the Latino side. Um, I think I'm finally earning my colors, and that's why it's been easier to see myself on that mirror. So when I put Steve on, I remember him. Steve was afraid. Steve was insecure. Steve wasn't sure if he was doing the right thing to a point where he overdid it and became clumsy at it. That was, and it was fun, man. The best thing of all is I'm so happy and grateful that Elgin gave me an opportunity to show my range, that I'm not just the funny gordito that we all know and love, but I'm also the guy that can, you know, express an emotion, a feeling, and a representation of a lot of humanity out there in our culture.
And bring the waterworks, man.
Oh man, I cried so much, man.
So
I
good.
was crying
I,
so
I,
much. I
I'm
was like,
gonna wrap this up by saying thank you so much. I'm so blessed to be able to have the opportunity to finish the show 5 minutes ago and then jump right on the camera with you, man. I was glad I had 5 minutes to get a little composed because it was gut wrenching. It was really good. You're phenomenal,
thank you so much.
and I'm glad that you're part of that fraternity now.
In the words of JD, I'll say it again: once a Mayan, always a Mayan, and Santo Padre, baby.
Momo, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much, not only as an interviewer, but as a fan of the product and as a fan of Latinos really rising up and getting it done, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Big fan over here too. Thank you for doing what you do and giving the word out, because without people like you, it would have never happened. Remember, what people don't talk about never happened. So thank you for talking about it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that as well. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on your next project.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Keep in touch. We'll do this.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do.
All right, brother.
Take
How we
care.
going?